Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. We always bring you the most fascinating stuff, and this one is no different. It's from the Heaven's Gate YouTube channel. And, well, let's just say it really got me thinking.
Oh, yeah. What is it about?
So it's this video featuring a guy named Brian, and he talks about this super intense near-death experience.
Okay. Intense how?
He claims he was shown visions of hell.
Whoa!
But get this, it's not who you'd think is down there.
Really? Who is it then?
It's all Christians.
Wow, that's definitely not what you usually hear about.
Right. It's so unexpected. And make sure you all subscribe to the Fred Mukaria News YouTube channel for more fascinating deep dives like this. Like this video, leave a comment, and share it with your friends and family.
I'm really curious now, what exactly does Brian say he saw?
So he describes seeing all these different Christians, from different walks of life. There's a deacon, a woman who seems super devout, even a preacher, and they're all suffering.
Suffering for what? All sin.
Well, that's the thing. The video keeps saying it's specifically the sin of pride that landed them in hell.
Huh. Pride. Okay, so we're already in interesting territory here. Typically when we hear about hell, it's just like a consequence for sin in general, right? But this is so focused on Christians and
Yeah.
pride.
Exactly. And the way they define pride in the video is super specific, too.
Oh, how so?
It's not just being arrogant or thinking you're better than everyone else. It's like this deeper, sneakier kind of pride.
I see what you mean.
You say it's this spiritual pride that can trick Christians into thinking they're good to go just because they have faith. Like they don't have to be humble or actually do good things.
So it's like this hidden sin that can easily creep up on you.
Right. Exactly. And Brian's experience really brings all of this to life. The way he describes everything, it's so vivid, even disturbing in a way.
Yeah, what kind of details does he give?
He talks about flames as high as mountains, screams of agony, people just trapped in this terrible suffering.
Mm.
He even gives specific examples like the deacon judging everyone else for their sins but ignoring his own.
Oh, wow.
And then there's this woman who is living a double life, looking all holy on the outside but being corrupt on the inside.
Lakes.
And even the preacher is there, craving attention and praise more than serving God.
Those examples really paint a picture, don't they?
Totally. It's not just some abstract idea. It's about how all of this plays out in real life, in our everyday choices and how we treat other people.
Right, and that brings us to what I find most fascinating about this whole thing, the whole relationship between faith and good deeds. It's like the video is pushing back against the idea that just believing in Christ is enough to be saved. It's more about actually showing it, being truly humble, and living a life that reflects your faith.
So it's not enough to just say you believe.
Yeah.
You have to actually live it out through your actions, right? And realizing that pride can totally mess that up.
Exactly. It's like true faith is this ongoing process, It's a journey where you're constantly changing and growing, always looking at yourself and being willing to admit when you're wrong. And always, always trying to live in a way that shows love and humility.
It's interesting. The video never really gets into specifics about different denominations or branches of Christianity. It's like it's speaking to all Christians in general, focusing on these big ideas that are pretty much universal,
Yeah, you're right. It steers clear of getting bogged down in theological details. It really just zeroes in on this core idea of pride as a danger for any Christian. And it does that by tapping into this imagery and using concepts that are really deeply rooted in Christian tradition.
Yeah, like the whole concept of hell. Brian's descriptions are pretty scary. And you can really tell this whole experience shook him up pretty bad. But I'm curious, what do you think the video is trying to do with these descriptions? Is it just trying to scare people into being good Christians?
That's a good question. I think it goes deeper than just trying to scare people.
Yeah.
I think the video is using these descriptions as a kind of wake-up call. Like a serious reminder of what can happen if you let pride take over your heart and start controlling your actions.
So more like a warning than a
Yeah.
threat. Like, hey, this is what could happen if you don't watch out, but you can still turn things around.
Exactly. And that's where the video's message about repenting comes in. It's not enough to just admit that pride is a problem. You have to actually turn away from it, make a real effort to become more humble, and let your actions show that you really want to follow what Christ taught.
And that brings us back to what we were talking about before. The video's focus on the connection between faith and actions. It's suggesting that true faith isn't passive. It requires effort, self-reflection, and a commitment to embodying the values of love, compassion, and humility.
Right. The video seems to be arguing that our actions, how we treat others, how we conduct ourselves in the world, are a direct reflection of what's going on inside us. And if our actions are driven by pride, by wanting to feel superior or better than others, then we're straying from the true path of Christianity.
So it's not just about believing the right things or going to church every Sunday. It's about living a life that's consistent with those beliefs, a life that's all about humility and love.
Exactly. And the video makes a strong case for why this matters. It suggests that the people Brian sees in hell are there not because they didn't believe in God, but because they let pride poison their hearts and distort their understanding of faith.
That's a pretty sobering thought.
Yeah.
Makes you stop and think about your own motivations and actions. Are we letting pride sneak into our lives? Are we judging others without showing any compassion? Are we more concerned with looking good than with genuine love?
Those are the questions the video wants us to ask ourselves. It's a call to look deeper inside ourselves, to honestly examine our hearts and see if we're truly living according to Christ's teachings.
And that can be a tough process, right? I mean, pride is often so subtle, so ingrained in our culture, that it can be hard to even recognize it in ourselves.
Absolutely. And that's why the video's message is so important. It's a reminder that the journey of faith is ongoing, a constant process of examining ourselves, repenting, and striving to make our actions match our beliefs.
So it's not about reaching some perfect state of humility, but about constantly checking ourselves, recognizing when pride is creeping in and correcting course.
Exactly. It's about admitting that we're human and we make mistakes, that we tend to stray from true humility, and that we need God's grace to guide us back.
I appreciate how the video, while presenting a serious warning, also offers a sense of hope. It doesn't just say, you're all doomed if you don't get your act together. It suggests that there's always a chance for change, for redemption, for choosing a different path.
You're right. Brian's experience is presented as a warning, a chance to turn away from pride and embrace true humility before it's too late. And that message, I think, can be incredibly powerful, even for those who might not agree with everything the video says.
Because at its core, it's a message about recognizing the dangers of pride, the importance of humility, and the transformative power of love. Those are universal themes that can resonate with anyone, regardless of their religion.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes this video so compelling. It takes a specific religious perspective and uses it to explore these bigger truths about being human that we can all learn from and apply to our own lives. It challenges us to really think about why we do what we do, how our actions affect others, and how we can make a positive difference in the world. And it invites us to consider how we can be more humble and loving in our interactions with everyone around us.
Now let's shift gears a little and talk about how this video might affect the viewer directly. We've talked about the religious aspects and the symbolism, but what about the personal takeaways? What do you think someone watching this video might walk away with?
That's a great question. I think the impact will be different for everyone, depending on their own beliefs and experiences. But I think there are some key takeaways that could resonate with a wide audience. For example, the video's exploration of pride could prompt viewers to examine their own lives for signs of the sneaky sin. It might make them more aware of how pride can show up in their relationships, their work, their interactions with others.
That's a really good point. It's easy to think of pride as something that only affects people who are arrogant or boastful. But the video really highlights how subtle and widespread it can be, how it can creep into our lives without us even realizing it.
Exactly. And that awareness alone can be really valuable. It can help us be more mindful of what we think and do, to catch ourselves when we're falling into patterns of judgment or self-righteousness, and to make a conscious effort to be more humble in our everyday lives.
And what about the video's message about faith and good deeds being connected? Do you think that could resonate with viewers who might not consider themselves Christian?
I think so. The idea that our actions should line up with our beliefs, that we should try to live in a way that reflects our values, that's a pretty universal concept. It's not limited to any particular religion or belief system. And the video's emphasis on love and compassion as the ultimate expressions of true faith could definitely resonate with people from all walks of life.
So even if someone doesn't agree with every single religious point the video makes, they could still find value in its message about self-reflection, humility, and the importance of living a life guided by love.
Absolutely. I think the video has the potential to spark some really important conversations and encourage viewers to think critically about their own lives and how they can make a positive impact on the world around them.
It's definitely a lot to think about. But I think that's what makes this video so thought-provoking. It challenges us to go beyond surface-level thinking and really grapple with some fundamental questions about human nature, morality, and the meaning of life.
And it does it in a way that's both engaging and easy to understand. using vivid imagery and storytelling to bring complex theological concepts to life.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to how sneaky pride can be and how important it is to develop true humility and compassion. It's a reminder that the journey of faith, or even just the journey of life, is a continuous process of growing and changing, and that process often starts with being willing to look inside ourselves and challenge what we think we know. It's wild how this video, even though it comes from a specific religious perspective, still manages to hit on these universal themes that I think anyone can connect with, you know?
Totally. It goes beyond just the fear of hell or the details of Christian theology.
Right.
It's really about recognizing how powerful pride is, how crucial humility is, and understanding the transformative power of love. Those are ideas that can apply to anyone, no matter what they believe, and it really makes you think about the choices we make day to day.
What kind of choices are you talking about?
Well, like, think about it. Are we coming from a place of love or a place of fear? Are we helping to make the world a more compassionate and just place? Or are we just adding to all the judgment and division?
That's a really powerful way to put it. It really challenges us to be more aware of ourselves, to consider the impact we have on others, and to really try to live in a way that lines up with our values.
You know what's really interesting to me? It's that whole idea that Brian was shown these visions of hell as a warning, not as like a done deal.
A warning for what exactly?
Well, it kind of implies that there's always a chance for redemption, for change, for choosing a different path.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It's like a reminder that our past mistakes don't define us. We always have the potential to grow and change. And that growth often starts with recognizing our own flaws, acknowledging those ways that pride might be stopping us from experiencing real love and connection.
That's a really profound point. It's definitely humbling to realize we all have areas where we can improve, but it's also really empowering to know that we have the power to choose a different way of being.
Right. And the video seems to be saying that choice is shown in their actions, how we treat others, and what's truly in our hearts. It's about actively trying to cultivate humility, compassion, and genuine love in our everyday lives.
This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me, honestly. It's made me think more deeply about my own life and how I can better live out those values of humility and love.
It's a good reminder that whether it's the journey of faith or just the journey of life, it's always a process of growing and changing. And that often starts with being willing to ask ourselves some hard questions, to really look inside and challenge our own assumptions about things.
And to remember that we're all in this together. We all have both darkness and light inside us. The choices we make, both as individuals and as a society, really do shape the direction of our lives and the world we create.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I wanted to leave you with something to think about.
Okay, I'm all ears.
If Brian was shown these visions as a warning, like a push to change, what does that tell us about the possibility of redemption? Not just for individuals, but for all of humanity.
That's a powerful question to end on. And it makes you consider the role each of us plays in building a more compassionate and just world.
Absolutely.
If you found this deep dive as thought-provoking as we did, make sure you check out the original video on the Heaven's Gate YouTube channel. Leave a comment, too. Let us know what you think. And if you're looking for more deep dives like this, subscribe to the Fred Mukeria News YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us on this journey of exploration and discovery. We'll see you next time.